that I have is, what does it mean for you? What opportunities which you might have lost in the past, but why to look backwards? What opportunities are there to work with UNEP, to work with UNEA on the topic of this conference, which in a more narrow sense is donkey protection, in a wider sense animal welfare. UNEP's mandate, of course, is an environmental mandate. Our mandate is to protect, help protect the environment, to advise governments on best ways how to do it. So, in simple words, we deal with environmental protection. When I look at the issue of welfare of domestic animals or welfare of donkeys, of course, I would say our mission and your mission, your area of work, they overlap on the margins. So it's not exactly the same. So UNEP traditionally does not look so much into welfare of domestic animal. Our area of work is more wildlife, so wild animals, elephants, lions, etc. Protection of biodiversity. But having said that, at the margins of our mandate, there is an overlap, and there are opportunities to cooperate. I will explain you a little bit where I see those. First, I think we could very much hear from the discussions today and yesterday that one issue you are dealing with is very similar to an issue we are dealing with, is the illegal trade with wildlife. We look more into the illegal trade, let's say, with tusks from elephant, with bones from lions. But if you look a little bit closer, there are lots of similarities. The ways how this illegal trade is done is similar. The actors are similar. Also, the effects on the environment, on nature, are similar. Secondly, I think to the rule of law. And that's also something what we look. A lot of the problems we were discussing today is a problem of the absence of rule of law, meaning law which is enacted is not implemented. The police, maybe with the best intention, is not equipped to enforce the law. Welfare and climate change. I think there was a slide this morning which referred to that, like using donkeys as a means of transport is also contributing to having governments from all around the world. So it is potentially a very powerful tool. So there's even opportunity for you if you do it in the right way, if you build the right alliances, which also includes alliances with governments. For instance, you would need a government or maybe more than one who is ready to champion a resolution, for instance, on animal welfare or an aspect of animal welfare. So it's a fair chance if you do it right to initiate a resolution, or what I think a topic in other resolutions, which deal, for instance, with climate change. There can be sometimes with environmental education. So another option there is to look, okay, what the resolutions are discussed and where can we inject
long seasons of drought, plastic pollution. All this really have a huge impact. Not even to mention the main challenge that we have in the day, that is development, infrastructural development. That is unsustainable. It does not respect conservation. It does not respect environment. So there are a myriad of challenges. But who can help in this? Governments. In fact, we are here today because we want the government to the plight of donkeys. So we need government commitment. And like, for instance, Paris Agreement, we've gotten the governments to actually in having these resolutions go through to the point of implementation. So that is one thing that we can take advantage of. And you know, with that, we should be able to have governments participate, governments able to be involved in protecting wildlife, biodiversity, and go beyond that to even the rest of the animals that we need. So indeed, UNEP is able, and it has instruments that are crucial, that can also help. One of them is African Ministerial Conference on Environment, that is AMCEN. UNEP also has a committee of permanent representatives that meet every month. So these are instruments that once a resolution has been adopted through UNEA and the governments are involved in moving the implementation, these instruments can actually move that forward. They can monitor, they can check. So we have UN Environment, I think, as an avenue that we can use to advance the animal welfare agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephat. A round of applause for him. Just to expound a bit shortly, AMCEN is actually a meeting for ministers of Africa. UNEP is just a secretariat, but it's a good avenue where you can actually, if you are accredited or not, you can attend this meeting, actually have conversation with African ministers. The CPR is a meeting that takes place at UNEP. If you are based in Nairobi and you are accredited, this is a meeting that you can access. And again, as Alexander said, have influence on the ministers. So just type down your questions. We'll have a question time. But for now, let's go to Ms. Petra. So shortly, if you want the governments to act on animal welfare, for example, the context of UN Environment Assembly, what is the global context that should be taken into consideration, and how can be ensured that all or many governments support decisions that lead to better animal welfare, e.g. the context of UNEA resolution?
Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about the bigger picture, the global context, and probably as some of you know here, Brook as an organisation has been around for 85 years. So we've had quite an interesting journey over 85 years, and I guess you could say we've got 85 years of learning lessons and trying to improve the way we operate. In the last 10 years, we've been looking more at the holistic way in which animals, and therefore what impacts their welfare. And most recently, we've been using the WHO, the World Health Organization's approach to One Health, and looking at the interdependencies, the animal, the humans, and the environment, or the ecosystem, really, within which animals and humans live. And that WHO model is used across many international agencies. And when you drill down a bit to look at how it impacts Brook, or how rather we use it to further our mission of improving equine welfare, so the welfare of horses, donkeys and mules. And I guess what really brings us to this conference over these 2 days, we recognise that the animals can't change their welfare on their own. And so what we need in order to improve the welfare of animals is a thriving community around the animals, communities like many of those represented here today, and also good health systems that support those animals. Health systems at a local level in terms of the veterinary profession, the paravets, the farriers, the harness makers, but also the broader health systems at the national and international level. And in order to achieve that, we work globally with organisations like the UN, and specifically we have specialised consultative status with the FAO, with UN ECOSOC, and most recently we've got a partnership with the UNEP. So I'm very pleased to be on this panel today. Those relationships are vital for improving equine welfare, because we need to nest the improvement of welfare within those global systems, and also raise awareness that these animals are sentient beings. They're not little machines. They're sentient beings that require care, that require compassion, and that require taken care of, whether that's in the home on a day-to-day basis, or whether it's in a more professional environment where you're calling on those service providers to improve their welfare. Brooke also works with the OIE, which was referenced earlier today by my colleague Kareem. That's the World Health Organization for Animals. And the OIE sets standards for over 180 countries around the world to comply with. Now, those standards can cover a whole range of different animal-related matters. The OIE is fundamentally a veterinary organisation, but it does also look at animal welfare. And specifically, there are OIE standards that I think need referencing in this conference that relate to the donkey hide trade. Standards around slaughter. Can we be confident that slaughter is accurately happening in all of the slaughterhouses in accordance with OIE standards? We've already heard over the last 2 days of some terrible slaughter practices, lack of stunning, maybe animals just being battered on the head. So I can be pretty sure that we're not seeing compliance to the OIE standards on slaughter. Also, there are standards around transport. Now, I think there are some stories been told around donkeys being walked across borders and then being loaded into trucks to be taken to their final destination. I'm pretty sure that the standards around transport are not being adhered to. I think we had a very graphic description yesterday of animals arriving with broken legs, with wounds, and even worse, a proportion of them actually arriving dead, because it didn't really matter when they end up at a slaughterhouse whether they arrive alive or dead. So I think we can be pretty sure that the OIE standards around transport are not being complied with. So at a global level, there is a range of different organisations that we can draw on to help us in our campaign to see the trade banned. And I think it's great to see UNEP taking the lead this afternoon with this panel, and for us to think about how we can be working more closely together as we take this campaign forward. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Petra. Now move on to Dr. Jacob Korok from CBO. Now, effective animal welfare and animal protections need effective policies, laws, and enforcement.